Hi, I'm Dana Lopez, and this is my video on the topic Wants versus Needs, an Economic Perspective. In 2024, over half of surveyed customers said that they will be more focused on buying needs, expecting less than 25% of their purchases that year to be items they want to buy. People are constantly making decisions. One of society's main struggles is the constant fight between wants versus needs. How do people decide what they want versus what they need? Deciding between wants and needs involves self-reflection, prioritization, and resources. A lack of understanding and inability to distinguish an imbalance of wants and needs can lead to destructive consequences, including stress, financial debt, and resource depletion. To begin with, it is crucial to define wants and needs. Needs are the most important of the two. Needs refers to the psychological and physiological requirements necessary for survival and well-being. On the other hand, want is something people have desire to have, whether they can obtain it or not. In other words, a want is merely a desire but not essential. To substantiate this definition, consider the following illustration. A principal need all organisms have is food. Picture a hungry person who wants a cheeseburger. The need is food and can be met by eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or an apple. However, the person desires a cheeseburger. The cheeseburger represents a specific preference, not an essential requirement. With those definitions and the example considered, how do people decide between wants and needs? Deciding between wants and needs involves three crucial aspects: self reflection, prioritization, and resources. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, self reflection is the activity of thinking about your own feelings and behavior and the reasons that may lie behind them. When deciding between wants and needs, self reflection involves asking oneself what and why. For example, a person is considering purchasing a new iPhone 16 Pro. To make the best decision, that person should start with self reflection. Do I need or want a new phone? Why do I think I need a new phone? What do I need the phone for? Why do I desire this particular phone? Is this because of functionality, status, or peer pressure? Asking these questions will help the person identify if buying a new phone is a necessity or only an impulse. Asking these questions, it can also help realize why the person wants an iPhone 16 Pro. The second aspect of wants versus needs decision making is prioritization. Prioritization is weighing the criticality, significance, and urgency of different tasks, factors, or elements. Using the previous example, the person could ask, is buying the phone urgent? Are there other products or services needed to buy of greater importance, significance, and urgency? Finally, it is essential to consider the available resources. Often regarding wants and needs, these resources refer to money in a person's budget. Does acquiring this product or service adjust to the budget? Is there any substitute? Substitutes refer to products or services that are similar enough and serve the same purpose for customers. Referring to the previous case, does the iPhone adjust to my budget? Is there a cheaper yet good brand available? The previous steps illustrate an optimal scenario. However, sometimes people give in to impulses or wants. Giving in to desires can lead to temporal pleasure and realization, but the consequences of an imbalance between wants and needs are destructive. These consequences include stress, financial debt, and resource depletion. Applying the earlier scenario, after considering all aspects, the person realizes that the only reasons to buy the iPhone 16 Pro are status and peer pressure. The phone the person currently has is good and fulfills all the required functions. Still, the person wants the iPhone 16 Pro because its friends and peers have iPhones, which makes them look of higher status. The person in this case does not want to feel left behind, so she buys the iPhone. In the beginning, she feels happy, successful, and cocky. Days later, she received the invoice and the bank statement. She now has an additional debt of $999. Now, instead of being cocky and successful, she feels stressed. She has other payments to make and no money. She depleted her resources. In other words, she consumed all her money and had to figure out how to make money to make her payments by the end of the month, including rent, food, gasoline, and the phone. The example illustrates the far-reaching consequences of an imbalance to a relatively small extent. The consequences can be far worse depending on the circumstances. To sum up, people constantly fight between wants and needs. Needs are products or services essential for survival and well-being, while wants are desires. Deciding between them requires thorough thinking involving self-reflection, prioritization, and resources. Failure to prioritize needs over wants can lead to imbalance and far-reaching consequences, including stress, financial debt, and resource depletion. Balancing wants and needs is intrinsic to a more fulfilling and sustainable life, as it aligns spending with personal goals, financial status, and priorities while avoiding negative consequences. Thanks for watching.